Hello, everyone. It's Frank McGuire, and this is another episode of Meanwhile Back on the Podcast. Now, if this is your first time at our table, let me tell you a little bit more about what you gotten yourself into. Meanwhile Back on the Podcast is a fandom culture, speculative fiction loving collective, and each week we will share our brand of raw and hard-hitting commentary, news, film, and game reviews from all your most beloved corners of fandom. Now, our panel of hilarious and knowledgeable co-hosts rarely see eye to eye on these things. But to be honest, we designed it to be that way. How else are you supposed to get both sides of the story? However, no matter what we disagree on, each of us champion open, nuanced, and thoughtful conversation when discussing our favorite made-up shit. Meanwhile, is your one-stop shop for everything a growing fan person needs without any of those nasty preservatives. Now, if you like this episode and you don't want to miss the next one, be sure to subscribe. And if you have a friend who shares your love for everything geek, we hope you will share our podcast with them. After all, sharing is caring. Now, on today's episode, I'm all by myself. Saba, Christina, Chris, Jeff won't be joining me. I just felt a need to get in front of the mic and talk about Mandalorian, the episode 5, season 2, episode 5. I felt a real need to tell everybody out there what I'm thinking right now. You know, I've been watching the reaction to Ahsoka Tano's live debut her debut as a live action character, and I just don't get it. I'm not feeling the same way that most of you guys are. I'm actually feeling quite the opposite. And I'm going to tell you why I'm feeling quite the opposite. To be honest with you, Ahsoka Tano is my favorite Jedi of all time. So this is coming from a fan of the character who has loved this character for so long. You know, I wasn't fortunate enough to be exposed to the Clone Wars when it first hit the air on the Cartoon Network. Not even when it first hit Netflix. I kind of found out about it posthumously. I was able to discover it by people talking about it on Reddit boards and everything. And honestly, Clone Wars is without a doubt one of my favorite pieces of Star Wars canon. I think I've said a number of times that I truly love the Clone Wars and Rebels in a way that is so much different than the film trilogies. You know, I'm a big fan of long format storytelling. And the Clone Wars and Rebels really kind of gave us an opportunity to kind of zoom out Star Wars and be able to see the things beyond the borders that the films could give us. And that really meant a lot to me. It was a very important experience. And Ahsoka was one of the reasons I fell in love with the Clone Wars and I fell in love with Rebels. You know, I love her character. I think her character is fantastic. I'm fascinated by this journey of a child soldier and watching her grow up on the battlefield and seeing her mature into this dynamic and powerful and intelligent and just thoughtful young woman. And, you know, I had high hopes for this episode of The Mandalorian going into it, but from that first scene, I knew this wasn't what it should be. In my opinion, I knew this wasn't what it should be. Okay, so let's talk about this. Let's start with kind of where the story left off with Ahsoka before we got to the Mandalorian. So in Clone Wars, you know, we see her become disenfranchised with the Jedi after they abandon her. Ahsoka is ultimately falsely accused of the murder of one of the conspirators in the Jedi Temple bombing, Letta Tormund, who was the wife of the guy who basically acted as the bomb delivery system. She fed him explosive nanites. And when Ahsoka goes to visit Letta by her request, she's force choked to death. And on the surveillance cameras, it looks like Ahsoka did it, but obviously it's Barriss Offee who's somewhere close to the cell, and she's been able to force choke Letta Tormund to keep her quiet and not reveal the other conspirators and that Barriss Offee was behind this Jedi Temple bombing plot. With the Republic under the impression that Ahsoka killed Letta Tormund, they arrest her, they throw her in a cell, and then Barriss Offee helps her escape. Ahsoka thinks it's Anakin helping her, but Barriss Offee drops one of those key card things outside of her cell. She uses the Force, opens up the cell, And as she's leaving the prison, she can see that the entire force has been decimated. They've been incapacitated. So she gets blamed for that as well. And she's off and running. The Jedi have abandoned her. Everybody thinks she's a criminal, that she was behind this bombing, and things just kind of snowball out of control. But she's ultimately on her own. She can't get the Jedi to trust her. The Jedi don't trust her. The Jedi think that she's the party responsible for the Jedi Temple bombing, and she's the one behind it because Letta Tormund had said that there was a Jedi behind it. So, the Jedi... So Ahsoka feels abandoned by her family, by her order. All the people that she loves are chasing her down, wanting to put her into prison. Obi-Wan, Anakin, the rest of the Jedi Order, the Republic guards that she once trusted. So she's got nothing, and she has to turn to the help of Asajj Ventress with some quid pro quo deal, right? And she's left in the lurch until Anakin figures out that it was Barriss Offee that was behind it, and he brings her forward, and Ahsoka's name is cleared. But it took all of that for the Jedi to trust Ahsoka again. Ahsoka never got over that. She left the Order, but she never came back as a Jedi. She's not a Jedi. And I really feel unequivocally that introducing her with a scene of her and lightsaber combat was the wrong way to introduce her. That is the fan service way to introduce her. Because, yeah, we all want to see Ahsoka, and we want to see the white lightsabers, and we want to see lightsaber scenes just in general. But I really feel like this did a disservice to the character and was a contradiction of the continuity of her story. This is not where we should have met her in The Mandalorian. If we fast forward and we take a look at Rebels, she never re-embraced the Jedi. She was disenfranchised with the Jedi. She didn't believe in their system anymore. Yet, watching her in this episode of The Mandalorian, it was like none of that ever happened. I really got the feeling that they were trying to subconsciously communicate to us that she is a Jedi. We saw the magistrate address her as Jedi, and she didn't correct the magistrate like she did Darth Vader in Rebels. So what the fuck? I don't feel like that is not true to the arc of this character. This was not where she should be at this point in time. Because keep in mind, Rebels only happens probably at most a year, maybe a year and a half, at absolute most 2 years before The Mandalorian, right? The last episode of Rebels has that summary of what happened during Return of the Jedi, the Battle of Endor. And then we see this flashback of Ahsoka and Sabine and Hera and Jason Syndulla. We see, we get up to speed with where these characters are, and Ahsoka looks like she's become like this Force priestess, almost disconnected from the soldier part of herself. Like she's almost kind of taken on this different persona, and her and Sabine's arc is heading towards going to find Ezra, finding out where the Purgle took Ezra. And I have a problem with Ezra and Thrawn, or I have a problem with Thrawn being mentioned in this episode too, and I'll get into that as well. But we're sticking to Ahsoka for now. So her and Sabine, they want to go out and they want to find Ezra, and they want to rescue him, and they want to bring him back. So it doesn't make any sense for me to see her on a battlefield killing soldiers. It just didn't make any sense. It wasn't consistent with where her character should be. I don't know if you guys saw that piece of fan art, but there's a beautiful piece of fan art where Ahsoka is in this wooded glen, and that staff she had in the Rebels is leaning against a tree, and she's wearing that cloak that she was at the end of Rebels, and Mando is sitting right next to her. Ahsoka's standing, and he's sitting on this log, and Baby Yoda is playing in some flowers. That's really what I thought we were going to see, is we were going to see Ahsoka kind of in the same context that we saw her in that last scene of Rebels. And that's not what we got. That was not Ahsoka Tano. So I really feel like the fan service that was needed to be delivered ruined this moment for Star Wars fans and fans of Ahsoka. And I think anybody out there who can't see that, I encourage you to go back and take a look at Rebels, take a look at Clone Wars, and my hope is that you'll see what I'm trying to say. You'll put the pieces together. This is not the character we were supposed to get. This is not consistent with where we left this character before we get to Mandalorian. And there's really no stories in between Rebels and the Mandalorian. I believe her book, the Ahsoka book, takes place before Rebels, before she becomes Fulcrum. So there's nothing to support her being this person still. Like it just doesn't make any sense. Now let's talk about Rosario Dawson's performance. I thought Rosario did a great job acting, but she didn't do a great job of bringing Ahsoka to life. I'm sorry, but she was too somber. She was too stoic. She was too just, there wasn't enough of Ahsoka's personality in Rosario Dawson's performance. There's a reason she earned the nickname Snips. It's because she's snarky and she likes to backtalk people and she's got a great sense of humor, and we saw none of that. So I don't know why everybody's saying that Rosario Dawson did such a great job of bringing Ahsoka Tano to life, but she didn't. And I don't know, I love Rosario Dawson too. I want to make sure that people know that. I love Rosario Dawson. I loved her as Claire. I loved her as a night nurse. I loved her in Clerks. I've seen everything she's ever done. Even 7 pounds, she was amazing. There's so many pieces of Rosario Dawson's work that I just love with a passion. So this isn't about Rosario Dawson. This is about the performance. Okay? This is about the performance. And the performance failed to deliver Ahsoka Tano. Okay? That's not Ahsoka Tano. That's not the Ahsoka that we knew. So I think it's time we need to, I think we need to start being honest with ourselves. And I don't know why fans are just falling over themselves to applaud this performance, because yes, Rosario is an amazing actress and I think she's an amazing person. And I don't care about whatever personal issues she has going on with her life. Well, speaking of that, I find it hard to believe that she's a racist. I can't make that leap. I don't think she's a racist. If you don't know what I'm talking about, Google it. It's been talked about by Star Wars fans, and there are actually people that have just, want to play judge, jury, and executioner like they always do on Twitter and try and cancel her without any evidence to the contrary or to support it. So, typical internet, Netsian, Twitter bullshit. So anyways, my point is that, we didn't get any of the nuance or idiosyncrasies that Ahsoka is known for. So in my opinion, that's not a good performance. That you're not bringing the character to life. Now let's talk about the physical aspects of Rosario's performance. I think she needs a little bit more training. As far as the combat stuff goes, I don't know how long she had to train. Probably not that long, but she definitely needs a little bit more training. She's a little slow moving. Actually, she kind of reminded me of Finn Jones when he debuted as Danny Rand in Iron Fist. Everybody was like, the choreography's good, but Finn's kind of slow. That's kind of how I felt about Rosario Dawson's physical stunt performance in the combat sequences. That's kind of how I felt about that. Her lightsaber grip was wrong most of the time. Ahsoka has her longer lightsaber, and she has her Shoto lightsaber. And her Shoto lightsaber is used with kind of a backhanded grip. And I didn't get to see a lot of that. And honestly, that's kind of how I've always seen Ahsoka fight, is she's got one in a standard grip, and then she's got one in kind of this backhand grip. I don't know if that's what you would call it. as a professional, I'm a layman. I'm sure there's some sort of actual nomenclature to describe that grip, but I'm calling it a backhand grip. So that was definitely an issue. So I think these are things that can be fixed and addressed over time. And they definitely, she will get better with more training. But at the end of the day, I really think she needs to focus on trying to bring that character more to life. I think she needs to sit down with Ashley Eckstein and really get a real feel for this character, because it's just not there yet. Not for me. And I'm one of Ahsoka's biggest fans, and I've watched Clone Wars probably 7 times. I've probably binged Clone Wars about 7 times, and probably Rebels around 5 times. So nobody needs to come back to me and tell me I don't know this character, because I know this character in and out. I've read her book, and she's my favorite Jedi of all time. So I know exactly what I'm talking about. As far as the actual look, the physical look of the character, I felt like the quality of the makeup and the prosthetic was lacking. I felt like it was about as half good as some of the Twi'lek characters that we've seen in previous episodes. The Twi'leks looked so much better than Ahsoka did, and I'm just questioning why they couldn't match the level of quality and finish that the Twi'lek characters got. Literally, Ahsoka's headpiece looked like something from Comic-Con. It had creases in it. It just took me out of the moment. It was disconnecting. I really couldn't buy that. Again, it just screamed Comic-Con to me. Obviously there wasn't a lot of digital retouching done to make it look more in line with actual Ahsoka's look, but if they could step that up with the next episode, I think that would be great. Or the next episode she's going to be in. The other thing is the Montrals are too short, and I don't know if this is a side effect of the translation from animation to real action, but Ahsoka's thinner face kind of gives it, kind of affects how that those Montrals kind of wrap her face a little bit. So I don't know. My opinion from day one when they were going to cast Ahsoka is that they should have been looking at somebody like Jessica Henwick from Iron Fist. Ironically, Jessica Henwick she definitely resembles Ahsoka in a few different ways, but she also is trained in sword combat and stage fighting with swords. So I think she could have been an ideal choice. And she was also second choice. She lost the role to Rey in Star Wars to Daisy Ridley. So Jessica Henwick was up for that role. I think Jessica Henwick could have been amazing in that. And I think Jessica Henwick has a better, stronger resemblance to animated Ahsoka than Rosario Dawson does. But I think that a lot of the fan art that was done to Rosario was amazing. And I think if they had matched the Montrals in the fan art, I think I would feel a little bit better about the actual design of the character, the onstage design of the character. I think I would feel a little bit better about. So that takes care of Rosario Dawson and Ahsoka. I was disappointed. I hope that Rosario can sit down with somebody like Ashley Eckstein, and Ashley can really give her a lot more depth in the character, so she can add a little bit more nuance to her performance to kind of bring Ahsoka, the performance to kind of bring Ahsoka to a little bit more a more accurate depiction in future upcoming episodes. So my second point is Grogu. So Baby Yoda, up until this point, or like when we're first introduced to him, he's in a stroller, basically. He's in a floating bassinet. He's in a stroller. And then we learn in the conversation between Ahsoka Tano, Grogu, and Mandalorian that Baby Yoda, Grogu, was actually a youngling in the Jedi Temple that escaped Order 66. I'm finding that very hard to believe because we met this kid in a stroller. So how is he going to be a Jedi youngling training, and then when we see him he's not even walking. He's not even he still has the mannerisms. He still has the the physical limitations of a small child, of a baby. So how is it possible that almost 20 years ago, he's in the Jedi Temple in Coruscant training as a Jedi youngling to be a Jedi? It doesn't make any sense. It literally makes no sense at all. If we had met this baby Yoda, we had met Yoda, this Grogu, if we met Grogu and he was standing and he was a child and he was physically had the physicality of a youngster or of an adolescent, that would make some sense. But this doesn't, because we meet this character in a freaking baby carriage, folks. It just doesn't compute. It doesn't make any sense. This is Lucasfilm trying to make sense of a shit sandwich. That's basically what this is. It's lazy writing, and I'm calling it out for what it is, and you guys should too. We shouldn't give everybody a pass when they do things like this, because it just cheapens everything, and it just doesn't make any sense. It's kind of ridiculous. It's kind of ridiculous. And as far as how Ahsoka gets this information from Baby Yoda, since when does Ahsoka have the ability to read people's minds? Because I think that power would have come in extremely handy when she was interrogating Letta Termond to find out who was behind the Jedi bombing. And then that if she had done that, she would have figured out it was Barriss Offee, and that would have been it. So Ahsoka has never had that power. But just for the sake of propelling this story, yes, she does. So again, just another example of lazy writing and Lucasfilm treating their audience like they're idiots. But granted, I think that Lucasfilm was fully aware that there are a lot of people out there that haven't watched the Clone Wars and the Rebels. So there's a lot that they can get away with. Not to say that they should, but that is the case. And that's probably why everybody is cheering this on and saying, oh, what a great performance, is because they've never seen Rebels and they've never seen Clone Wars and they've never grown, familiar with this character, especially Ahsoka. So anyways, that's my issue with the Grogu thing. It just doesn't make any sense. Now let's get into Thrawn, the mention of Thrawn. And this isn't going to take long to poke holes in, because it's pretty obvious. It should be pretty obvious to anybody who's watched the Rebels series. So at the end of Rebels, Ezra and Thrawn are sent into hyperspace by a pack of Purrgil, which are like these space whales. And they have the ability, they're really the only organic being in the galaxy who can use hyperspace. These Purrgil take Ezra and Thrawn as they jump into hyperspace. So nobody knows where Ezra and Thrawn are, but all of a sudden the magistrate does. The magistrate knows of Thrawn's location. I don't think so. That's just not acceptable. She doesn't know where Thrawn is. This is just more fan service because they want to get Thrawn into the series, or to get him into the series to set him up with his own spin-off, just like they're trying to do with Ahsoka. The fact that the whole idea at the end of Rebels was that Sabine and Ahsoka were going to go find Ezra because they had no clue where he was. And obviously Ahsoka feels indebted to Ezra because he saved her life. And, right? So this doesn't make any sense, okay? Nobody knows where Thrawn is. The magistrate shouldn't know where Thrawn is. Nobody should know where Thrawn is. Because these were Purrgil. They don't speak. They don't communicate. They couldn't send a radio message or a beacon or anything. They're animals. They're organic beings that Ezra had this incredible connection with. And so nobody knows where Ezra and Thrawn are. And let's just leave it at that. I really thought that if they were going to dovetail the Clone Wars and Rebels characters into Mandalorian, it would have been Mando and Grogu, or Baby Yoda, crossing paths with Sabine and Ahsoka as they were looking for Ezra. But that's not the case, is it? That would have made complete logical sense. Is like, they're both hunting for things. and they could have come into contact with each other in so many different ways. You know, when we saw the preview, I thought the ice planet was going to be Ilum, and Ilum was going to reveal some sort of secret to Mando about who Baby Yoda was, but that wasn't the case either. Now it's just they're patching up holes and everything and slapping duct tape in places wherever they need to kind of fix the mess that they've made of these stories, because they want to bring these characters in and they don't want to do it. They don't want to do it properly. So that's how I feel. And honestly, this episode altogether was just one big lazy samurai trope. It was just one big lazy samurai trope. This was a samurai story from start to finish. And there's probably a samurai movie that has this exact same plot somewhere. I'm not familiar with it, but if anybody out there is listening and knows of a samurai movie that has a similar plot, definitely at me on Instagram, meanwhile_pod, or Twitter, meanwhile_pod, because this is getting, I'm sorry, episode 5 was supposed to deliver something of real value and of great importance, and I just feel cheated. I feel cheated, guys. I really do feel cheated. So that's my take on Mandalorian episode 5, my take on Ahsoka, my take on Rosario's performance, my take on the whole thing with Thrawn. It doesn't make any sense. And my whole take on Grogu. So I don't know where they head from here. I got to be honest, I've kind of lost a little bit of enthusiasm for this series now, but hopefully they can get back on track. I wish they will do whatever they need to do in production to make Ahsoka more closer to what she looks like in the animated series, as far as the length of her montrals and the quality of it and the fit and the finish and the look and her physical prowess and her athleticism and her personality. Just give me those things and maybe I can go back to being a happy guy and forget about Thrawn and Grogu. But anyways, I think that as a community, as Star Wars fans, we need to start calling out this crap for what it is. It's just fan service with no logical storytelling reasons for it. It's just slapped in there, and I'm starting to get really annoyed by it. But I don't know how you guys feel. I'd love to hear from everybody out there. So if you go to our Instagram at meanwhile_pod, you click on our link in our bio. We have set up a link where you guys can send us audio messages. So you can send us like a 90-second audio message. We'd love to hear what you think about The Mandalorian. We'd love to hear what you think about this episode. So if you guys could do that for us, that would be great. And if you have a moment, we'd really appreciate if you could head over to Podchaser, Stitcher, or Apple Podcasts and drop us a review. We'd really appreciate it. All your feedback helps tremendously as we look to improve the show. And if you have any friends who are into all things geek just like you, make sure you tell them about our show. Share the link with them. Let them check it out for themselves. So with that said, I think I'm going to wrap it up here. I'm Frank McGuire. Take care, guys. Peace.